My name is Emma. I'm 36 years old and live in a small town about an hour outside of Tampa, Florida. That afternoon, I left my shift at the clinic early and stopped by a neighborhood bakery to pick up a cake I had ordered in advance. A simple vanilla cake with white buttercream, fresh strawberries, and the words, "Happy Birthday, Dad. Richard." The cake sat neatly on the passenger seat beside a card I had written and torn up 3 times. I couldn't decide whether to write, "Dear Father-in-law," or just, "Richard." He used to be warm and cheerful, always calling me Little M at family events. But ever since the stroke left him wheelchair-bound, everything shifted, especially in the way my in-laws treated him. I pulled up in front of the Bennett house around 5 p.m. The neighborhood was strangely quiet. A soft breeze rustled the bushes near the door, and the wind chime above ticked softly, like it was keeping time. No cars in the driveway. I told myself they must have stepped out. But deep down, I felt something was off. Using the key Richard had given me last year, I unlocked the door and stepped in. Silence. No decorations. No birthday signs. The faint smell of lemon cleaner came from a candle flickering on the living room table, the kind Laura, my mother-in-law, always lit, saying it cleans the air. I set the cake down, hung my coat, and walked into the kitchen. That's when I saw him. Slouched in his wheelchair, a cold slice of pepperoni pizza on a napkin in front of him. The TV was off, the room dim. He wasn't wearing a sweater, though. The air had turned cold. A blanket had slipped from his lap to the floor. His eyes met mine. Not sad. Just humiliated. "Hi, Dad," I said gently, trying to keep my voice calm. I stepped forward, picked up the blanket, and tucked it over his legs again. Neither of us spoke for several moments. My hands trembled as I reached for the cake knife. Just then, the iPad on the counter chimed with the familiar FaceTime tone. The screen lit up with the name, Alex Bennett. I answered. What I saw stopped me. Alex, my husband, was lounging on a beach chair in Maui, drink in hand. Next to him was Laura, his mother, laughing behind oversized sunglasses. "Oh, she finally made it," Laura said breezily, like I was the housemaid. "How's the old man?" Alex raised his glass to toast. "Hope that bargain cake's good enough for him." I felt numb. Richard said nothing, but his jaw trembled. "Just let him rot there," Laura added, pinning a flower back into her hair. "As long as someone's cleaning up, who cares? I'm tired of that wheezing every time I poured soup." I flipped the iPad face down. My chest ached. Not with anger. Not even sorrow. Something deeper, like a slow, silent breaking inside. Alex always said I was too sensitive. But no one imagines something like this. Being abandoned, by your husband, in his own father's house. On his father's birthday. I looked at Richard. The pizza slice still sat there, greasy under the overhead light. I picked up a fresh napkin, replaced the old one, and gently pressed the corners flat, like tucking in a child. Then I heard a soft creak, wheelchair wheels. I turned. The blanket had slipped again. But what froze me was what I saw. Richard's leg, planted firmly on the tiled floor. The man declared paralyzed from the waist down 6 months ago had one foot on the ground, then the other, hands gripping the chair. Arms, shoulders trembling. He was pushing against gravity. "Dad, what are you doing?" I whispered. No answer. His neck strained, sweat beading on his brow. Then, with a deep breath that seemed to fill the entire room, Richard slowly rose. His knees shook. His back hunched. But he stood, on his own. I stumbled forward, hands outstretched. But he raised one hand, signaling me to stop. "Don't," he panted. "Let me do it." I froze. Watching a mask fall off a man I thought I knew. He lowered himself slowly back into the chair. Every movement came from a place deep within him. "I don't believe it," I whispered. "How is this?" Richard wiped his forehead with his worn shirt sleeve. His eyes had changed. No longer dull. They were sharp. "Since early summer," he said, voice hoarse but steady. "A few minutes at a time. Every time they left. I started with my toes. I didn't interrupt. They needed me helpless," he continued. "Laura wanted to put me in a home. Free up her time. And Alex, he only cared about my accounts." Each word sliced through me. "You know," he went on, "Alex tried to fake a power of attorney. Move my investments into his name." I nodded. I'd suspected. Richard's mouth twitched. Not a smile, something bitterer. "They thought I was confused. But I managed pension portfolios for veterans. Their tricks? Child's play." He reached toward a kitchen drawer. I opened it for him. Inside was a worn voice recorder and a black notebook. "Been recording everything since Laura started hiding my meds," he said. "Phone calls. Conversations when they thought I was asleep. Even last night, Alex said he'd clean everything up once they got back from Hawaii." I opened the notebook. Meticulously written entries. June 3rd, Laura swapped the sleeping pills. July 14th, Alex called the bank about changing beneficiaries. Why tell me now? I asked. Because you showed up. Not for attention. But because you thought I was alone, he said. And you never laughed when you got my name wrong. You asked if I was in pain. Not to be polite, but because you meant it. He handed me a keyring. In the attic, stuff they never touched. They think I'm not smart enough to protect it. But if you help me, we can fix everything. I looked at him, and for the first time in months, I didn't see someone broken. I saw a man ready to fight for his dignity. I nodded. They won't take anything else, I said. The yellow kitchen light shimmered off his hand as the keyring gave a soft metallic jingle. Well then, Richard said, his eyes lifting toward the staircase. It's time to open the war chest. He wheeled himself out of the kitchen, the old keys rattling in his lap. I followed, still shaken. Not just from what I'd seen, but from the calm in his voice, the clarity. Like the frail man I'd been told to pity had been performing for 6 months, waiting for the right moment. We stopped at the hallway closet. The one Alex always told me not to open. Full of junk, he used to say. Nothing but Mom's old decorations. Richard inserted a key. The lock clicked with a dry, mechanical snap, like it hadn't been turned in years. Use your phone light, he said. I turned on the flashlight. The room was dark, thick with the smell of mildew. And old paper. Against the wall leaned a metal ladder. Above it, the attic door. See that pull cord? He pointed. I tugged. The folding stairs creaked downward. I climbed first, light scanning across the dusty attic filled with cardboard boxes. But tucked between 2 trunks was something different, a small built-in safe embedded into the wall. Use the brass one, Richard called from below. The key marked with an R. I found it and turned it gently. The safe opened with a heavy click. Inside, 2 worn leather journals, a portable hard drive, and a thick envelope sealed with packing tape. I placed everything into a canvas bag and climbed down. Richard's eyes gleamed in the dim light. Now, to the study, he said. We leave no trace. We headed to the downstairs office. Alex always called it the printer graveyard. Dusty, unused. But beneath the clutter sat an old desktop computer. A CRT monitor flickered to life with a groan. Richard flipped through his notebook to a page filled with logins and passwords. After several attempts, we were in. I connected the external hard drive. Folders popped up. Garage cam. Call logs. Restricted, he read aloud. Which one first? Call logs, I said. The first file was dated May 20th. I clicked play. Alex's voice came through, clear and unmistakable. If he stays out of it for 6 more months, we'll make the beneficiary switch look official. Just sign it, I'll fill in the rest. Laura's voice answered, cold. Do it fast. I'm sick of changing his diaper and hearing him wheeze through dinner. My hands clenched. Richard didn't flinch. His eyes stayed locked on the screen like it was burned into him. Next recording, a call to the bank. This is Alex Bennett, legal rep for Richard Bennett. I need access to update his IRA beneficiaries. A pause. The banker asking for documents. I'll send notarized copies. Don't give me trouble. My father can't even hold a pen anymore. Richard turned to me. You know what's funny? That same day, I wrote a full journal entry. After my therapy session. I swallowed hard. The shock was long gone. Now I felt fired. We opened the garage cam folder. A clip loaded, Alex, holding a beer, pacing in the garage. Once he's in the home, he told Laura, clean out the office. There's a safe left of the filing cabinet. Burn it. Probably old army junk. Laura laughed. Just dusty metals and expired war bonds. They clinked their cans. Richard's voice cut through. They don't just want money. They want to erase who I was. I opened the thick envelope. Legal forms. Beneficiary changes. Forged medical reports. Fake signatures. Some barely resembled Richard's writing. One typed statement, dated August 11th, bore the name of Dr. Harper, a known friend of Laura's. Richard gripped my hand. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a planned takedown. I nodded, my eyes locked on the damning papers in front of me. This isn't just evidence, I said. It's ammo. Richard wheeled toward the bookshelf in the corner. He reached for an old leather-bound novel. Pressed its spine. A soft click, the back of the shelf moved slightly, revealing a hidden compartment. He reached inside and handed me a thick yellow envelope tied with red ribbon. I've always kept this here, he said, because I knew someday you'd need it. Inside, his official, notarized last will and testament. And beneath his typed name, in bold, Emma Bennett, designated trustee and sole beneficiary. I'm the heir? I asked in disbelief. Richard nodded, tired but certain. They shamed you for losing the baby. Treated you like a burden. But I saw everything. Who stayed? Who cared? Who showed up when no one else did? I flipped through more pages, asset lists, investment accounts, life insurance, deed transfer forms. and a symbolic $1 home purchase agreement in my name. No one knows this but Halbier, my attorney, and now you, Richard said. Signed it all in March. Laura and Alex never even asked. I remembered Laura laughing with her friends, once the doctor signs off, that house will be ours. Just a matter of time. They thought he was fading. But he'd already outmaneuvered them. I placed the folder on the desk, palms slick with sweat. My life had just flipped in under an hour, and at the center of it all was a man everyone else thought was finished. The next morning, as I was reviewing the documents before sending them to Attorney Halbier, Richard's phone began to ring. The screen lit up. Alex cell. Richard glanced at me, a slight smile curling on his lips, as if he had been waiting for this. I reached over to silence it, but he raised a hand. Let me answer, he said. Put it on speaker. I nodded and tapped the icon. The call rang out into the quiet room. Dad. Alex's voice came through, loud and agitated. Are you seriously holding your phone right now? What the hell is happening with your account? My card just got declined 3 times. At checkout. In front of everyone. Richard stayed silent for a beat. Then he leaned back, his eyes calmly fixed on mine. I gave him a small nod. Good morning, Alex, he said smoothly. There was a pause. Then Alex's voice dropped in pitch. Wait, are you lucid? Far more than you ever gave me credit for, Richard replied, his voice even and sharp. A forced laugh crackled through the speaker. Oh, I get it. Emma's pulling strings again. She's manipulating you. I'd had enough. I'm not pulling anything, Alex, I said. I'm executing the legal authority granted to me by a notarized, registered will, confirmed by Richard's attorney over 6 months ago. Silence. You don't have standing, Alex finally stammered. You're not family. Not by blood. You don't have rights. Richard's posture shifted. His tone turned cold. She's the only one who stayed when I couldn't walk. While you and your mother schemed, she helped me retain dignity. And she's the only one in this family who understands loyalty. Alex snapped. She's robbing us blind. Don't you see it? I clenched my jaw. The only theft that happened was you forging signatures, impersonating your father, and conspiring with your mother to wipe everything clean once you dumped him in a facility. Another silence. Then Alex hissed, you were spying? I didn't have to, I said evenly. You said it all, in front of the garage camera. You forgot this house still had someone paying attention. Suddenly, Laura's voice cut in from the other side of the call. Richard, sweetheart, you're being misled. We can explain. You don't understand the legal nuances, Richard. Gave a cold chuckle. I understand enough. I wrote wills for veterans and retirees for 30 years. And I revoked your power of attorney back in April. You can't do that. It was notarized. Witnessed. And filmed, he said. Flatly. A loud thud rang out. Something had clearly been knocked over on their end. Possibly in a panic. Then Alex's voice came back, more frantic. This isn't over. You think you can just cut us out? You think some documents will save you? You're going to regret this. I didn't even flinch. No one's cutting you out, Alex. You and your mother removed yourselves. The day you left him with cold pizza and flew off to sip Mai Tais, you made your choice. Richard folded his arms. His face was unreadable, but a quiet pride flickered in his eyes. I leaned forward, my tone final. If either of you attempts another transaction, transfer, or forged update, we have a civil complaint ready, and every document is already in the hands of the court. A long beat followed. They hung up. Richard sat back with a quiet exhale. You did well, he said. Really well. I didn't answer. I pulled another folder from the drawer, the one I'd already emailed to Halbier. The night before, that afternoon, I drove Richard to Halbier's office, tucked in a brick building downtown Clearwater. Simple brass plate out front, Jonathan Halbier, attorney at law, inside. Halbier was already waiting in the conference room. Sleeves rolled up. Glasses resting low on his nose. He rose and shook my hand firmly, with the grip of someone who'd hauled anchors and filed lawsuits in equal measure. Richard, he said, smirking. Still flipping the table when they think the game's over? Richard gave him a look that said everything. I laid out the evidence, audio files, garage footage, the will, transaction records, the revoked POA, and the $1 home deed. Even the video of Alex bragging about wiping everything after Hawaii. Halbier scanned the documents carefully, occasionally scribbling sharp notes in blue ink on a yellow legal pad. Then came the clip of Laura muttering about cleaning the old man like a kitchen sink. Halbier paused the video. This, he said slowly, is no longer just an inheritance fight. This qualifies as elder financial abuse. Serious enough to escalate to county court. I nodded, the weight of it sinking in. We'll file for a temporary freeze on all accounts immediately, he continued. No transfers, no withdrawals. Nothing moves without court approval. What about the house? I asked. He pointed to the symbolic deed. This is airtight. I'll file a protective lien today. They won't be able to mortgage, sell, or lease a single inch. Richard looked over at me, eyes steady with trust. How long before they try? Something desperate? I asked, with people like them? Halbier raised an eyebrow. We've got 48 hours max. That night, Halbier and I finalized the civil complaint: forgery, financial coercion, manipulation of a vulnerable adult, and abuse of fiduciary duty. Richard signed every page. His hand trembled, but each stroke landed with certainty. We submitted everything to the Pinellas County Court before midnight. Halbier even contacted a judge on duty, someone familiar with elder abuse cases. Within 2 hours, we had our freeze order. By morning, Richard's banks had locked everything. I didn't sleep, just powered through with weak coffee, drafting official notices. Each one ended with the same phrase: any unauthorized activity after March 15 is hereby invalid and subject to prosecution under state law. I sent them by certified express mail, email, and directly to the private attorney Laura had once bragged about. Halbier suggested I prep a case summary for the media, just in case. I knew Emma could endure, Richard told Halbier as I poured him more tea. But now I know she can lead. I didn't say anything. Just felt something shift inside me. Whatever they had once called me, useless, an outsider, a burden, I had rewritten the ending they wrote for us. Before we left, Halbier handed me a sealed folder. In here, court orders, proof of authority, and a certified copy of the will. Keep it on you at all times. I took it and nodded. What's next? Halbier adjusted his glasses. Now you prepare for court, he said. And this time, you don't need anyone to believe you. You've already won the truth. Richard stood, leaning on his cane. His back straightened with a grace that made Halbier chuckle. Still a Marine, huh? Richard gave a small, defiant smile. Once you're in the fight, you don't retreat. You move forward. Courtroom 4, Pinellas County Courthouse, was full that morning. The buzz in the room dropped the second the doors shut. I sat at the plaintiff's table in a navy blazer, folder in front of me, palms slightly cold but back straight as iron. Beside me, Richard sat calmly in his wheelchair, one hand lightly resting on the armrest, eyes sharp, focused. Across the aisle, Alex walked in, wearing a wrinkled gray suit like it had been balled up in a suitcase. His mother, Laura, trailed behind him, oversized handbag clutched like a shield. Their attorney, a young man in a too shiny tie, looked more like a law school intern than someone ready for a case involving forgery, financial abuse, and estate fraud. Then Judge Jenkins entered. Mid-60s, gray-streaked hair tied back, known for her no-nonsense courtroom. The second she sat down, the room stiffened. We'll begin, she said. Attorney Halbier stood. His voice, steady and precise, carried across the courtroom. Your Honor, we are submitting evidence of financial coercion, manipulation, and exploitation of Mr. Richard Bennett by his biological son and second wife. Over the course of 6 months, they systematically isolated and incapacitated him for personal financial gain. He gave me a nod. I stood and walked to the monitor at the front of the courtroom, plugging in the USB drive, requesting permission to present our first exhibit. Permission granted. The screen flickered. The garage footage played first. Alex's voice came through clearly. Once we get him in the facility, clear out the office. There's a safe to the left, burn everything. Next, the security cam footage from the bathroom hallway. Laura, opening the medicine cabinet, sorting through pill bottles, whispering. As long as he's sedated, he'll sign anything. A ripple of discomfort moved through the courtroom. Someone gasped quietly. Alex flushed red. Their young attorney scribbled frantically, flipping through papers. I wasn't done. Exhibit 3, I said. Video from March 15, Mr. Bennett signing his last will and testament in the presence of legal counsel and under full mental clarity. The footage played, Richard, trembling but alert, signing the documents. Halbier's voice confirmed his competence, the notary stamp visible in the corner. Then, the birthday footage. Richard alone at the kitchen table, silent, a cold slice of pizza untouched in front of him. Then the FaceTime call. Alex, drink in hand. Laura, laughing on a beach. Enjoy babysitting the corpse. Alex's voice rang out. I looked directly at Judge Jenkins. That day, they called me the help. Left me to sit with a man they discarded. And while I was lighting candles for his birthday, they were draining his retirement. Judge Jenkins gave the faintest nod. Anything else, Ms. Bennett? I placed a final stack of documents on the table, a full forensic audit. Over $60,000. Transferred from Mr. Bennett's accounts into a private credit line registered to Mr. Alex Bennett. Charges include a yacht deposit, luxury car down payment, and airfare to Hawaii, all during the time Mr. Bennett was considered mentally unfit to sign checks. The opposing attorney jumped up. Objection. There is no conclusive evidence those funds weren't voluntarily transferred. Halbier didn't even flinch. Your Honor, we have handwriting analysis, comparing forged signatures with Mr. Bennett's verified samples. Additionally, we have phone logs. Mr. Bennett was impersonated in multiple bank calls, requesting transfers while he was documented in recovery care. A new video clip played. Alex's voice to the bank, my father can't sign anymore. I'll send the documents. Richard sat still. His face calm. His legacy being defended in real time. Judge Jenkins leaned back, her fingers interlaced. After reviewing all submitted video, audio, financial records, and testimony, she said, her tone grave, I issue the following preliminary ruling. Everyone went quiet. All estate access, banking privileges, and fiduciary authority granted to Mr. Alex Bennett and Mrs. Laura Bennett are hereby suspended indefinitely. A gasp escaped across the aisle. The will, presented with video evidence and notarized validation, is deemed legally binding and unchallenged. Full authority over the estate, investments, assets, and medical directives is granted to Ms. Emma Bennett, the sole named and legal representative. Alex jumped up, face red and twisted. She's not even blood. Who the hell is she to take everything? Richard finally spoke. His voice was steady, even, and low. She's the only one who never treated me like I was disposable. Silence. Thicker than before. I slowly sat back down, my hands gripping the folder tightly. My heart pounded, but I didn't shake. For the first time, I felt seen, respected, trusted. Judge Jenkins struck her gavel. Based on the submitted evidence of forged documents, financial abuse, and elder exploitation, the court revokes all inheritance claims by Alex and Laura Bennett. The sole unlawful beneficiary remains Ms. Emma Bennett. I didn't cry. Didn't smile. I just nodded once. What I felt wasn't triumph. It was peace. A quiet peace, like justice had slipped back into its proper place. Alex stormed out of the courtroom, face pale and hollow. Laura followed, her designer bag bumping into a row of seats, the heels of her shoes tapping erratically as she fled, and just like that, everything they built on lies and greed crumbled. That afternoon, I brought Richard back to what was now legally our home. He didn't speak. Just took in the dusty old walls, the creaky door hinges, the scent of lemon polish and aging oak. As he crossed the threshold, his shoulders eased, as if the house had been holding its breath, waiting for him. What are you going to do with all this? He asked, his fingers brushing the kitchen counter where he used to nap after rehab. I thought for a moment. I'm going to build something, I said. For people like me. People who were invisible, but still chose to show up. Several weeks later, the Bennett Foundation was officially launched. Its mission was simple: to provide financial assistance to home caregivers and nurses abandoned by their families, and to offer free legal support for those facing abuse, exploitation, or manipulation. At the front of the office, a bronze plaque bore Richard Bennett's name, with a quote he had written himself in shaky but determined handwriting: no one should be forgotten just because they're fragile. The story spread faster than we expected. Local news stations reached out. Legal blogs labeled it a landmark elder abuse and estate fraud case, but what moved me the most wasn't the headlines, it was the flood of messages. Letters, emails, handwritten notes from other MS. A woman from Missouri wrote about how her brother had starved their mother into signing over the family house. A nurse from Oregon shared how she was evicted by her patient's daughter-in-law for not cleaning well enough. Each note ended the same way: thank you. For the first time, someone stood up for people like me. That night, after the case officially closed, I cooked dinner for us. Not cold pizza, but homemade lasagna and butternut squash soup, using Richard's old recipe. He sat at the head of the table, back straight like a Marine, eyes warmer than I'd ever seen. It's been a long time since I've had a hot meal in my own home, he said quietly. We ate slowly. There wasn't much talking. Outside, the city lights reflected in the glass window, casting the image of two figures, one old, one young, bound not by blood, but by something deeper: trust. After dinner, he rolled out a small oak chest from the hallway. Inside were old photographs, letters, and an album from when his wife was still alive. He flipped to a page. There I was, sitting beside him on a park bench last winter, just after his hospital release. I kept this one, he said softly, because that's the day I realized I wasn't dead yet. I looked at him, my throat tight. Not because of the picture, but because of what it meant. That night, before bed, I placed an extra chair at the table. Not because I was expecting someone, but because I believe there should always be a seat for the one who chooses to do what's right. We don't forget what they did, but we move forward, with truth, and with grace, and that's the legacy I truly inherited.